When I was in rabbinical school, something very obvious was pointed out to me, and it sort of blew my mind. The obvious thing that I never noticed before is that most of the increments of time, like the day and the night and the month and the year, are all set by the orbits, by the cosmos. But the unit of a week is an innovation. We could say God-given, we could say a human invention. Thank God for Shabbat. And thank God for this unit of a week to help us mark time. This week I had a chance to learn with the Toronto Board of Rabbis and our guest teacher, David Zvi Kalman from the Hartman Institute. And he is an expert in Jewish timekeeping, an area I know little about. And he says that historically, Judaism came up at the same time that timekeeping came up in the world. They ran in parallel through human history. The Torah only mentions timekeeping in the abstract. There are many mentions of the seasons, of course, but in terms of measuring time, it's rare. The word for hour, sha'ah, in fact, only appears once in the totality of the Hebrew Bible. And it is only in the very latest book of Daniel, written in Aramaic, not even in Hebrew, which goes to show how late this innovation is. And even there, the word sha'ah is an abstract measurement of time. David Zvi Kalman teaches that there, in Daniel, sha'ah means something like a short amount of time, but certainly not 60 minutes. Do you remember, I know you remember, those long, dark days of lockdown, when one day seemed to flow into the other with no little change, next to no progress or forward momentum anywhere in sight? Most people did not wear their watches. Who didn't wear a watch during the pandemic? Yeah. Who has still not put on a watch? Yeah. There were, in those dark days, habits, regrettable habits that only deepened. We watched relationships fading, and the hours between getting up and lying down all started to blend together and to look alike. And many were asking themselves, does all this add up to anything? Do my days, do my weeks, do my years count? Well, our weekly Torah portion, Parashat Emor, comes with a resounding answer, yes. It all counts. Our Torah portion indicates that literally they must count. Here we find the mitzvah of counting 49 days of the Omer, the period of 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot. And this is the very stretch of time in which we find ourselves today. And on the 50th day, at the end of the Omer, a bread offering was to be made, marking the culmination of a successful spring harvest. The mitzvah of counting is formulated in the plural. And according to Jewish law, it's a commandment incumbent upon every individual. Each of us is to count each of the 49 days, and we will in just a few moments. The Talmud, however, debates whether one must count in the measure of days or in weekly units, that new innovation, at least when the temple is no longer standing. Should that be our practice? Normative practice, according to Jewish law, has us counting both the days and the weeks simultaneously with a unique formula. For example, the 8th day of the Omer is called 1 week and 1 day, 7 plus 1. So what is the effect of counting the Omer? In the simplest sense, Rabbi John Kelson suggests it functions as an invitation. Counting the Omer invites us to believe, or at least to try to believe, that our days count, that today is worthy of counting, that this day is valuable and entirely unique, never to be relived again. Not only today as an individual unit of time, but each day taken together becomes combined into a full week that is greater than itself. This week has changed us. Since we gathered together, since last Shabbat, we are not the same people we were then. Just reflect on that for a moment. How have lives changed? How has our world changed since we gathered since last week? A few days ago, I was out for a walk with a wise friend who pondered the question that haunts many of us lately, and that is whether or not history, human history, bends towards progress. It feels like we are backsliding into a darker time. The season of the Omer comes to say, yes, there is progress. We are building towards something. We are walking towards somewhere. We are moving in the direction of Sinai, where Torah will be given and received all over again. In this way, the Jewish calendar cycle is a circle of time, and the way we walk through history, it is linearly. This is a great Jewish innovation. Cyclical, the way the Greeks had it, and linearly, the way the Torah insists upon it. Lech lecha, God commands Abraham, Avram, go forth, walk into a future that has never been seen before. Walk, we say, with the counting of the Omer from Egypt to Sinai and onto the Promised Land. That path is sometimes straight, but usually meandering, but it is a path, nevertheless. And Torah challenges all of us, each day, each year, each hour, each lifetime. Believe, or at least try to believe, that it is something worth counting. Make it all count. And the rest is commentary.